Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of the starship Eternal Dawn, watching the stars through the massive window. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. For 40 years, he had commanded ships that traveled between the stars. In all that time, he had never seen anything like what they were looking for today. "Admiral, we are getting close to the target area," said Navigator So Young from her station. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with quick fingers that danced over the control panels. Her voice sounded excited and nervous at the same time. Tejo nodded. "Take us out of hyperspace. Let's see what we find." The ship slowed down and dropped back into normal space. Outside the windows, the stars stopped moving so fast. But something was wrong. Where they expected to find a blue and green planet, there was only empty space and floating rocks. "Sir," So Young said, her voice now worried. "According to our old records, we should be looking at Earth right now. But there's nothing here except asteroid pieces. Earth." The word made everyone on the bridge go quiet. It was the home world of all humans, the place where their species had been born. For 30,000 years, humans had spread across the galaxy, building cities on 1,000 different worlds. But Earth was special. Earth was where it all began. "Run a full scan," Tejo ordered. "Check everything twice." Kiwan, the ship's expert on old things and dead civilizations, worked at his station. He was a careful man who spent his time studying the past. "Admiral, I'm picking up some strange readings. These rocks, they're not natural asteroids." "What do you mean?" Tejo asked. "Some of these pieces have metals in them that don't belong in space rocks. I'm seeing iron, concrete, and other materials that come from buildings and cities." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone understood what Kiwan was saying, but nobody wanted to believe it. Dr. Hai Rim, the chief science officer, looked up from her computer. She was a smart woman who had studied space and planets for most of her life. Her face was pale. "Admiral, I need to tell you something. These readings, they show that whatever happened here was not natural." "Explain," Tejo said. "The way. These rocks are spread out, the types of damage I can see. This looks like a planet was destroyed on purpose. The energy patterns match weapons that are designed to break apart entire worlds." The words hit everyone like a punch. Earth, the mother world of humanity, had been murdered. "How long ago?" Tejo asked. Hayrim worked on her computer for several minutes. "Based on how far the pieces have moved and the way the metals have changed over time, I think this happened about 30,000 years ago. 30,000 years. That was right around the time when the first human ships had left Earth to explore other star systems. The early colony ships had been slow and could only carry a few thousand people each. Most humans had stayed behind on Earth, planning to follow later when the technology got better. But they never got the chance. "Sir," Kiwan called out, "I found something. There's a large piece of metal about 2 kilometers from us. It looks like part of a space station." "Take us closer," Tejo ordered. The Eternal Dawn moved toward the metal piece. Through the windows, they could see it was twisted and broken. But some parts were still in one piece. There were symbols and writing on the side that looked familiar. "That's human writing," So Young said. "Old human writing from thousands of years ago." "Can we get inside?" Tejo asked. Kiwan studied the broken station. "Yes, sir. Part of it. Still has air inside. We can dock with it." 20 minutes later, Tejo, Kiwan, and Hayrim were floating through the dark hallways of the old station. Their spacesuits had lights that showed the way. Everything was covered in dust and ice, but some of the computers were still working. "Look at this," Kiwan said. He had found a computer that was still turned on. The screen showed old Earth, writing and numbers. Hayrim connected her equipment to the computer. "I can try to read the files, but they're very old and damaged." For an hour, she worked on getting information from the old computer. Finally, she found something. "I have a partial file," she said. "It looks like it's a message from Earth's military command." The message played on a small speaker. The voice was scratchy and hard to hear, but they could understand the words. "This is Commander Sujin of Earth Defense. All colonies, please respond. We are under attack. Unknown alien. Ships have surrounded Earth. They are demanding that we stop all space travel and return our people to Earth. They say humans are too dangerous to be allowed to spread to other worlds." The message stopped for a moment, then continued. The aliens call themselves the Vorthak Collective. They have weapons we cannot fight against. They are beginning to attack our cities. If anyone receives this message, stay away from Earth. Save yourselves. Remember us. Remember what they did to us. Then the message ended. The three humans floated in the dark station, not speaking. Finally, Tejo broke the silence. How many people lived on Earth 30,000 years ago? He asked. According to our history books, about 8 billion, Hayrim answered. 8 billion people. Men, women, children, old people, babies, all dead because some aliens decided that humans were too dangerous to live. Sir, Kiwan said, there's more data here. It will take time to read all of it, but I think we can learn more about these Vorthak aliens. Do it, Tejo said. I want to know everything about them. Who they are, where they come from, and most important, he paused and looked out through the station's broken windows at the pieces of rock that had once been Earth. I want to know if they're still alive. They spent 3 more hours in the old station, copying every file they could find. Some files were too damaged to read, but others told the story of Earth's final days. The Vorthak Collective had given humanity 1 week to stop all space travel and bring back the colony ships. When Earth refused, the aliens attacked. The war lasted only 6 days. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Tejo called a meeting with all his senior officers. He told them what they had found. When he finished, the room was completely quiet. Sir, asked Commander Junho, the ship's intelligence officer. What do we do now? Tejo looked around the table at his officers. These were good people who had served with him for years. They trusted him to make the right choice. First, we send a message to the Human Colonial Council. They need to know what happened to Earth. Then we find out everything we can about the Vorthak Collective. And after that? So, Young asked. Tejo's eyes were hard as steel. After that, we see if they still exist. And if they do... He didn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the room understood. The Vorthak Collective had murdered 8 billion humans 30,000 years ago. They thought they had destroyed humanity completely. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Intelligence Officer Junho had not slept for 3 days. His eyes were red and tired, but he could not stop working. The old files from Earth's final space station were like pieces of a terrible puzzle, and he was putting them together one by one. Admiral, he called out as Tejo entered the computer room. I found more information about the aliens who destroyed Earth. Tejo sat down next to him. Around them, screens showed pictures and text that had been saved from 30,000 years ago. Tell me what you learned. Junho pointed to one of the screens. The Vorthak Collective was not just one alien species. It was a group of 12 different alien races working together. They controlled a large area of space, maybe 200 star systems. What did they want? Tejo asked. According to these files, they believed they were the guardians of the galaxy. They thought it was their job to decide which species were allowed to grow and spread to other worlds and which ones were too dangerous. Junho opened another file. This one showed a picture of the alien who had led the attack on Earth. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its head was larger than a human head, and its eyes were completely black. This is High Commander Velcuron of the Threx species. He was the leader of the collective 30,000 years ago. The files say he personally ordered the destruction of Earth. Tejo stared at the picture. This thing had killed 8 billion humans. Is he still alive? I don't know yet. But sir, there's something else you need to see. Junho brought up another file. This one was a video message from Earth's government. The person speaking was a woman in a military uniform. She looked scared but was trying to be brave. This is General Su Jin again, the woman said. The aliens have rejected our offer to limit human expansion to 10 star systems. They say even 10 systems is too many. They want all humans to stay on Earth forever. The video continued. We tried to explain that we need other worlds because Earth is getting too crowded. We told them we would not bother other alien species, but they don't care. They say humans are naturally violent and will eventually become a threat to everyone in the galaxy. The video was damaged in some places, but they could still understand most of it. The alien leader, the one called Velcuron, told our ambassadors that humanity is like a dangerous disease. He said the only way to protect the galaxy is to kill all humans everywhere. Taeho's hands turned into fists. Keep playing it. The aliens found our colony ships. Some of the ships that left Earth 5 years ago, they destroyed them. Millions of people dead. The ships that got away were the ones that were already very far from Earth. The video showed General Soo-jin looking directly at the camera. If any humans are watching this in the future, you need to know the truth. The Vorthak Collective doesn't just kill worlds that threaten them, they kill worlds that might threaten them someday. They have done this before to other species. That was the end of the video. Junho opened more files. I found records of other species that the Collective destroyed. The Kalari people, who were good at building things. The Zephyrians, who were peaceful but very smart. The Morthak, who were trying to explore space just like humans were. How many? Taeho asked. In the 1,000 years before they attacked Earth, the Collective destroyed at least 20 different species. Billions and billions of intelligent beings, all killed because the Collective decided they were dangerous. Dr. Hayrim entered the room. She had been studying other parts of the old files. Admiral, I found something about Collective technology. Their weapons, their ships, everything. She sat down and showed them her work. The good news is that their technology was not very advanced, even 30,000 years ago. Their weapons were powerful enough to destroy planets, but they were slow and simple. And the bad news? Taeho asked. The bad news is that we don't know how much their technology has improved in 30,000 years. They might be much stronger now. Tactical analyst Min Ho had been listening from the doorway. He was a young man who was very good at understanding how battles worked. Sir, may I say something? Go ahead, Taeho said. I've been thinking about what we learned. The Collective destroyed Earth because they thought humans were too dangerous. But they made a mistake. They didn't destroy all humans. Some of our people got away. Minho walked to the wall where there was a big map of the galaxy. 30,000 years ago, maybe 50,000 humans escaped in colony ships. Today, humans live on over 3,000 worlds. Our population is more than 500 billion people. He pointed to different areas on the map. We have technology the Collective never imagined. Ships that can travel across the galaxy in days instead of years. Weapons that make their old planet killers look like toys. And most importantly, we have something they don't have. What's that? Junho asked. We have a reason to fight. They killed our homeworld. They murdered 8 billion of our people. They tried to destroy our entire species. Cultural historian Ye Jin came into the room carrying a thick book of notes. She was an older woman who studied how different species thought and acted. I've been reading about collective culture and beliefs, she said. They truly believe they are protecting the galaxy by killing dangerous species. In their minds, they are heroes. Heroes? Taeho said angrily. Yes. They have stories and songs about their great cleansings of dangerous species. They celebrate the destruction of Earth as one of their greatest victories. To them, killing 8 billion humans was a good thing that saved the galaxy from a terrible threat. Yejin opened her book and read from it. According to their philosophy, the galaxy is like a garden. Sometimes you have to pull out the weeds so the good plants can grow. To the Collective, humans were weeds. Do they know that humans survived? Hayrim asked. I don't think so, Yejin said. All their records suggest they believe they killed every human in the galaxy. They think they completed their job perfectly. Junho looked up from his computer. I found more information about where the Collective lives now. They still control the same area of space they did 30,000 years ago. Maybe a little bigger. He brought up a star map. This is their territory, about 300 star systems, with their capital world here. He pointed to a star near the center of collective space. The planet is called Vorthak Prime. According to the old files, that's where their government meets and makes decisions. If the aliens who ordered Earth's destruction are still alive, they would be there. Taeho stood up and looked at the map for a long time. Everyone in the room waited for him to speak. How long would it take us to get there? He finally asked. With our fastest ships. About 2 weeks, Minho answered. And how long would it take to send a message to the human colonial council? 3 days to reach the nearest human world with a communication relay, So Young said from the doorway. Taeho nodded slowly. Send the message, Tell the Council everything we found. Tell them what happened to Earth, who did it, and where these aliens live now. What should we do while we wait for their response? Junho asked. Taeho looked around the room at all his officers. These were good people who had served humanity well, but now they were learning that their species had been the victim of the worst crime in galactic history. We prepare, he said. We learn everything we can about the collective. We find out if they're still alive, how strong they are, and what they've been doing for the last 30,000 years. And then? Yejin asked. Taeho's voice was cold and hard. Then we decide what justice looks like for the murder of 8 billion innocent people. He walked to the window and looked out at the pieces of rock that had once been Earth. Somewhere in this galaxy, the aliens who had done this might still be alive. They might still be celebrating their victory over humanity. Soon, they would learn that humanity was very much alive, and humanity remembered everything. The message from Admiral Taeho traveled across space faster than light, jumping from one communication relay to another. It reached the human capital world of New Terra in exactly 3 days, just as So Young had predicted. Chancellor Dong Hyun was eating breakfast when his assistant brought him the emergency message. He was a large man with kind eyes who had led the human government for 10 years. People trusted him because he always told the truth, even when the truth was hard to hear. He read the message once, then read it again. Then he put down his coffee cup and called for an emergency meeting. 2 hours later, representatives from 3,000 human worlds were connected by hologram to the Grand Assembly Hall. Some of them were just waking up, others were going to bed. But when they heard what Chancellor Dong Hyun had to say, nobody cared what time it was. Fellow humans, the Chancellor began. Today we learned the truth about what happened to Earth 30,000 years ago. Our home world was not destroyed by a natural disaster. It was murdered. The holographic representatives began talking all at once. Chancellor Dong Hyun raised his hand for quiet. Earth was destroyed by aliens called the Vorthak Collective. They killed 8 billion of our people because they decided humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. He showed them pictures from the old files that Admiral Taeho had found. Pictures of the aliens who had ordered the attack. Pictures of Earth's final messages. Pictures of the broken space station floating where Earth used to be. The collective believed they had destroyed all humans everywhere. They were wrong. Some of our people escaped and grew into the civilization we have today. We are the children of the survivors. A representative from the mining world of New Korea stood up. Her name was Dr. Sora, and she was known for speaking her mind. Chancellor, do these aliens still exist? We believe they do. They still control the same area of space they held 30,000 years ago. Another representative, Captain Hyun from the agricultural world of New Busan, raised his hand. What do you want us to do about it? Chancellor Dong Hyun looked around, the great hall at the faces of humanity's leaders. I want to know how you feel about the fact that the murderers of our homeworld are still alive and free. The hall erupted in angry voices. Representative after representative stood up to speak. They used words like justice and vengeance and never forget. Dr. Sora spoke again. I call for a vote. All humans' worlds should decide together what we do about this. I agree, said Chancellor Dong Hyun. All in favor of military action. Against the Vorthak Collective, vote now. The vote was not even close. Every single human world voted yes. 3,000 worlds, 500 billion people, all agreeing on the same thing for the first time in human history. Fleet Admiral Su Young was in her office on the military world of New Seoul when she got the call from Chancellor Dong Hyun. She was a tough woman who had commanded space fleets for 20 years. She had fought against pirates and hostile aliens, but nothing like this. Admiral, the Chancellor said over the video call, the Assembly has voted. We are going to war. How? Big a war? She asked. The biggest war in human history. I want every ship we have. Every soldier, every weapon, every piece of military equipment. We are going to end the Vorthak Collective forever. Admiral Su Young stood up from her desk and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the largest human military base in the galaxy. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons that could destroy entire star systems. It will take time to organize everything, she said. Maybe 6 months to get all our forces ready. You have 4 months, the Chancellor said. Every Day we wait is another day those murderers live free. After the call ended, Admiral Su Young called her top officers. General Hyun Woo commanded the ground forces. He was a big man with scars on his face from old battles. His sister, Engineer Na Young, was in charge of making sure all the ships and weapons worked properly. How fast can we mobilize the entire human fleet? The Admiral asked them. General Hyunwoo thought for a moment. If we push really hard, maybe 3 months. But some of our forces are very far away. What about weapons? Admiral Su Young asked Na Young. We have planet-killer missiles, but they're old technology. If we're going to fight aliens who destroyed Earth, I want to build something better. How much better? Na Young smiled, but it was not a nice smile. I want to build weapons that can destroy stars. While the military prepared for war, Dr. Boram worked to understand the enemy. She was humanity's best expert on alien psychology, the science of understanding how different species think. Dr. Boram read every file that Admiral Tae-ho had sent back from Earth. She studied collective culture, their beliefs, their history. The more she learned, the more worried she became. They really believe they are the good guys, she told her assistant, Dr. Kisu. In their minds, they saved the galaxy by destroying Earth. How can they think killing 8 billion people was good? Dr. Kisu asked. Because they don't see other species as truly intelligent. To them, humans and other species are just animals that might become dangerous if they spread too far. Dr. Boram showed him a collective document she had translated. Look at this. They call themselves gardeners of the galaxy. They think the galaxy is their garden, and they have the right to decide which species live and which ones die. That's insane, Dr. Kisu said. No, it's worse than insane. It's logical, from their point of view. They have convinced themselves that mass murder is actually a moral duty. Meanwhile, Intelligence Chief Wu Jin was preparing spy missions into collective space. He was a quiet man who was very good at finding out secrets that other people wanted to hide. I need to know everything about the collective before our fleet arrives, he told his team. How many ships they have, what kind of weapons, how many people live in their territory. That's dangerous, said Agent Mi Jin. If they catch our spies, they'll know humans are still alive. Then don't get caught, Wu Jin said simply. The first spy ships left human space 2 weeks later. They were small, fast ships that could hide from most sensors. Their mission was simple. Get into collective territory, take pictures and recordings, and get back alive. While they waited for the spy reports, Admiral Su Young worked on the battle plan. She spread out a huge map of the galaxy on her table and studied it with her officers. The collective controls about 300 star systems, she said. Their capital is here, at Vorthak Prime. Their main military bases are here, here, and here. General Hyunwoo pointed to the map. If we attack their military bases first, they'll know we're coming before we reach their capital. So what do you suggest? The Admiral asked. We attack everything at the same time. Every collective world, every base, every ship. We hit them. So fast and so hard that they can't respond. Engineer Na Young looked worried. That would require thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. It would be the biggest military operation in galactic history. Good, said Admiral Su Young. The people who destroyed Earth deserve the biggest response in galactic history. 3 months after the vote, human military forces from across the galaxy began gathering at staging areas near collective space. The fleet was enormous. 10,000 warships, 5,000 support vessels, and enough soldiers to conquer 100 worlds. But the most important ships were the new ones that Engineer Na Young had built. They carried weapons that had never been used before. Weapons designed specifically for fighting the species that had murdered Earth. Admiral Tae-ho, still at the site where Earth used to be, received a message from Admiral Su Young. We're ready, the message said. Come home. It's time to make the collective pay for what they did. Tae-ho looked one last time at the rocks floating in space, all that remained of humanity's birth world. Soon the aliens who had done this would face the children of the survivors. The children had grown up to be very strong, and they had not forgotten what happened to their home. Captain Jinwoo's stealth ship moved through space like a ghost. The Shadow Walker was one of the newest human spy ships, designed to be invisible to alien sensors. For 2 weeks, Jinwoo and his crew had been deep inside Vorthak collective territory, taking pictures and recording everything they saw. What they found made Jin Woo sick to his stomach. "Look at this," said his communications officer, Yun-Su, pointing to her screen. They were watching a collective world called Zephyros Prime, where millions of aliens lived and worked. But these aliens were not free. They wore metal collars around their necks and worked in huge mines and factories. When one of them moved too slowly, collective guards shocked them with electric weapons. "These are the Zephyrians," Jin Woo said, remembering the old files from Earth. "The collective was supposed to have destroyed them completely 30,000 years ago." "They lied," said Yun-Su. "They didn't destroy the Zephyrians. They made them into slaves." Jin Woo ordered his ship to move closer to the planet. What they recorded over the next 3 hours would change everything. The collective had not just enslaved the Zephyrians, they had enslaved dozens of species. Aliens who were supposed to be extinct were still alive, but living as prisoners on collective worlds. They worked until they died, and their children were born into slavery. "Captain," said his pilot, Min-Su, "there's something else you need to see." On the edge of the Zephyros system, there was a huge space station. It was covered with monuments and statues celebrating collective victories. Jin Woo used his ship's cameras to read the alien writing on the monuments. One monument was dedicated to the great cleansing of the human disease. It showed collective ships destroying Earth, with words praising the brave aliens who had saved the galaxy from human expansion. Another monument celebrated the wise elimination of the Zephyrian threat, but the Zephyrians were not eliminated. They were right there on the planet below, working as slaves. "They lie about everything," Jin Woo said angrily. "They tell their people they destroyed these species to protect the galaxy. But really, they just wanted slaves." The Shadow Walker spent 3 more days recording evidence before moving to the next collective system. Everywhere they went, the story was the same. Species that were supposed to be extinct, working as slaves. Monuments celebrating genocides that never actually happened. After 2 months of spying, Jin Woo had seen enough. His ship was full of evidence of collective crimes. It was time to go home and report what they had found. But first, they had to visit the most important target, Vorthak Prime, the collective capital. Vorthak Prime was a huge world covered with cities. Billions of aliens lived there, but only the ruling species lived in the nice parts of the planet. The slave species lived in underground tunnels and worked in factories that poisoned the air. "There," said Min-Su, pointing to the largest city on the planet. "That's where the collective government meets." Jin Woo watched through his cameras as collective leaders moved around the city in flying vehicles. These aliens looked exactly like the ones in the old Earth files. They had not changed much in 30,000 years. "I wonder if any of them were alive when Earth was destroyed," Yun-Su said. "Some collective species live for thousands of years," Jin Woo said. "The ones who ordered Earth's destruction might still be alive." They recorded everything they could about the planet's defenses, its military bases, and its government buildings. Then they prepared to leave. But as they were getting ready to go, something happened that changed their mission. A small ship appeared near them. It was not a collective ship. It was old and damaged, and looked like it had been built by one of the slave species. "Captain," said the ship's communication system in broken English, "please help us." Jin Woo was shocked. How did this alien know human language? "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Kalor. I am Zephyrian. We learned your language from old recordings. We know humans still exist. Please, you must help us." Jin Woo looked at his crew. Their mission was to spy and get back to human space safely. But this alien was asking for help. "What do you want?" Jin Woo asked. "The collective tells everyone that humans are all dead, but we knew it was not true. We have been waiting 30,000 years for humans to return. How many of your people are still alive?" "Millions. On dozens of worlds. All of us slaves. The collective uses us to build their ships and weapons. We have been planning to fight back, but we need help." Jin Woo made a decision that was not part of his mission. "Can you get me information about collective military forces?" "Yes. We work in their factories. We build their ships. We know where everything is." For the next week, Jin Woo met secretly with Zephyrian rebels. They gave him detailed information about collective defenses, ship designs, and military plans. In return, he promised that humans would come back to free all the enslaved species. When the Shadow Walker finally returned to human space, Jin Woo's report changed everything that Admiral Su Young had planned. They have millions of slaves, Jin Woo told the assembled human military leaders. Species that we thought were extinct. They're all still alive, but living as prisoners. That changes our strategy, said General Hyun Woo. We can't just destroy collective worlds if there are innocent slaves on them. And there's something else, Jin Woo continued. The slaves want to fight. They've been waiting 30,000 years for someone to help them rebel against the collective. Admiral Su Young studied the new intelligence reports. How many slave rebellions could we support? All of them, Jin Woo said. Every enslaved species hates the collective. If we give them weapons and support, they will rise up at the same time we attack. Engineer Na Young smiled. So instead of just destroying the collective, we free their slaves and turn them into allies. Exactly. But we need to coordinate everything perfectly. If the slaves rebel too early, the collective will kill them all. If they rebel too late, we won't have their help. Dr. Boram, who had been studying collective psychology, spoke up. This will terrify the collective leaders. Their whole system depends on keeping the slave species under control. If the slaves all rebel at once, collective society will collapse. Good, said Admiral Su Young. Let's make their worst nightmare come true. The plan became much more complicated, but also much more powerful. Human fleets would attack collective military forces, while human special forces teams would land on slave worlds to provide weapons and support for rebellions. We'll need to send advance teams to make contact with rebel groups on every enslaved world, said Intelligence Chief Wu Jin. How long will that take? Asked Admiral Su Young. 2 months to get our people in position. Then we can attack everywhere at the same time. Do it. While the new plan was being prepared, Captain Jin Woo received a secret message from Keylor, the Zephyrian rebel leader. Humans, the message said. The collective has learned that someone is spying on them. They do not know it is humans, but they are getting suspicious. Please hurry. We cannot wait much longer. Jin Woo showed the message to Admiral Su Young. We need to move faster, he said. How much faster? The slaves are ready to rebel now. If we wait 2 more months, the collective might discover the rebel networks and kill all the leaders. Admiral Su Young looked at her calendar. Human forces were still gathering, and not all the new weapons were ready. But if they waited, they might lose the chance to save millions of enslaved beings. All commanders, priority meeting in 1 hour, she announced. We're moving up the timeline. The meeting was intense. Some officers wanted to wait until they were completely ready. Others wanted to attack immediately to save the slaves. Finally, Admiral Tae-ho, who had discovered the truth about Earth, spoke up. 30,000 years ago, the collective destroyed our world because they decided we were dangerous. Today, we have the chance to free millions of innocent beings who have suffered under collective rule for thousands of years. He looked around, the room at all the human military leaders. Our ancestors couldn't save Earth. But we can save the slaves. And in doing so, we can make sure that the collective never hurts anyone again. The vote was unanimous. The attack would begin in 30 days. Across human space, the largest military force in galactic history prepared to move out. And on dozens of collective worlds, enslaved aliens prepared to fight for their freedom. The collective had no idea what was coming. High Counselor Velkaran sat in his great chair in the center of the collective council chamber. He was old, even by Threx standards, having lived for almost 10,000 years. His gray skin was wrinkled, but his 4 arms were still strong. And his black eyes still saw everything. He had been there when Earth was destroyed. He had voted yes when the council decided that humans were too dangerous to live. It had been the right decision then, and he was proud of it now. Counselor, said his assistant, a young Threx named Dulcor. There are reports of strange ships in our outer territories. What kind of strange ships? Velkaran asked, not really interested. Unknown design. They appear on our sensors for a few minutes, then disappear. Our patrols cannot catch them. Velkaran waved one of his hands dismissively. Probably smugglers or pirates. Increase patrols in those areas. Yes, Counselor. Velkaran went back to reading reports about slave production quotas. The Zephyrians were not working as hard as they should be. Perhaps it was time to execute some of them as an example to the others. 3 star systems away, Commodore Yunjung was about to change Velkaran's day completely. Yunjung commanded a small human attack fleet, 20 ships with the newest weapons, that engineer Na Young had built. Their target was a collective military outpost that guarded one of the main routes into collective space. "All ships, this is Commodore Yunjung," she said over the communication system. "Today we begin to make the collective pay for what they did to Earth. Attack formation. Engage the enemy!" The human ships came out of hyperspace directly in front of the collective outpost. The collective aliens had never seen ships like these before. They moved faster than anything in the collective fleet, and their weapons were completely unknown. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. When it was over, the collective outpost was gone. Every alien ship was destroyed. The humans had not lost a single vessel. "Send the message," Yunjung ordered. Her communications officer broadcast a signal on all collective frequencies. "This is the human colonial fleet. 30,000 years ago, you destroyed our home world and murdered 8 billion of our people. You believed you had eliminated humanity. You were wrong. We have returned. Justice is coming." At the same time, on 12 different collective worlds, human special forces teams were meeting with slave rebel groups. Captain Young Mi had landed on Zephyros Prime with 50 human soldiers. They carried weapons and equipment for the Zephyrian rebels who had been planning their uprising for decades. "These are pulse rifles," Young Mi explained to Keylor and the other rebel leaders. "Point them at collective guards and pull the trigger. The weapon will do the rest." "When do we attack?" asked Keylor. Young Mi checked her watch. "In exactly 6 hours, human fleets will attack the main collective military bases. That's when you start your rebellion. Hit the guard stations first. Then free the other slaves." Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. Everywhere the collective had enslaved other species, human teams were providing weapons and support for rebellions. Back on Vorthak Prime, High Counselor Velkaran was receiving very disturbing news. "Sir," Dulcor said, running into the council chamber. "We've lost contact with Outpost 7. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "The entire outpost is gone. Destroyed, and we received a strange message claiming to be from humans." Velkaran stood up quickly. "That's impossible. Humans are extinct. We made sure of that 30,000 years ago." The message specifically mentioned the destruction of Earth. They said they had returned for justice. For the first time in thousands of years, Velkaran felt afraid. "Call an emergency council meeting, now." Within an hour, the leaders of all 12 collective species were gathered in the Great Chamber. Velkaran told them about the destroyed outpost and the mysterious message. "It cannot be humans," said Counselor Morthek of the Rigel species. "We destroyed their entire planet. No one could have survived." "But what if some escaped?" asked Counselor Yalara of the Nexus species. "What if there were human ships that got away before we destroyed Earth?" The council chamber became very quiet. None of them had ever considered this possibility before. "Even if some humans escaped," said Velkaran, "there could not be many of them, a few thousand at most. They pose no real threat to the collective." He was wrong about that, but he would not learn how wrong until it was too late. 6 hours after Commodore Yunjung's attack, the real war began. Admiral Su Young commanded the largest fleet in human history from her flagship, the Earth's Vengeance. Around her, 10,000 human warships prepared to attack collective space from 50 different directions. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Su Young," she announced. "Operation Justice begins now. Show the collective what happens when you murder innocent people." The human fleets attacked everywhere at once. Collective military bases that had stood for thousands of years were destroyed in minutes. Alien ships that had terrorized enslaved species for generations were reduced to scrap metal. But the most important attacks were happening on the ground. General Hyun Woo led the assault on the slave world of Kalaris, where millions of Kalari people had been forced to work in weapon factories. As human soldiers fought collective guards, the Kalari rebels rose up with their hidden weapons. "Freedom!" shouted the Kalari leader as she shot a collective overseer. "After 3,000 years, we are finally free." The same scene was repeated on dozens of worlds. Zephyrians, Kalari, Morthak, and many other species that the collective claimed to have destroyed were fighting back with human support. Combat engineer Seok Jin and his team had the job of destroying the slave control systems on each world. These were the computers that tracked every slave and could kill them with their metal collars if they tried to escape. System destroyed, Seok Jin reported as another control center exploded. All collars are deactivated. The slaves are free. Combat medic Hyo Jin followed behind the soldiers, treating wounded rebels and helping freed slaves who were too weak to fight. Many of the enslaved beings had never seen humans before, but they knew that humans were the ones who had come to save them. "Thank you," a young Zephyrian said to Hyo Jin as she treated his injuries. "We always hoped someone would come to help us." "We're sorry it took so long," Hyo Jin replied. On Vorthak Prime, High Counselor Velkaran was learning the terrible truth about human survival. "How many ships?" he asked his military commander. "At least 10,000, sir. Maybe more. They have technology we have never seen before." 10,000 ships? Velkaran could not believe it. "How is that possible?" "Sir, we are also receiving reports that the slave species are rebelling on every world. They have weapons and seem to be coordinated with the human attacks." Velkaran felt his world collapsing around him. The collective had ruled this area of space for 50,000 years. They had destroyed dozens of species and enslaved dozens more. They had believed themselves to be the masters of the galaxy. But now the children of one of their victims had returned, and they were stronger than the collective had ever been. "Send a message to the human fleet," Velkaran ordered. "Tell them, we want to negotiate." "What should we offer them?" asked his assistant. Velkaran thought about all the worlds the collective controlled, all the resources they had taken from enslaved species, all the power they had built over thousands of years. "Anything they want," he said. "Offer them anything they want." But as Colonel Jamin led his soldiers through the burning remains of a collective slave camp, he was asking himself a difficult question. The collective was being destroyed just as they had destroyed Earth. Their cities were burning just as human cities had burned 30,000 years ago. "Sir," said one of his soldiers, "we found a group of collective civilians hiding in this building. What should we do with them?" Jamin looked at the terrified aliens. They were not soldiers or slave masters. They were just ordinary people who had been born into the collective system. "Treat them fairly," he said. "We're not like the collective. We don't kill innocent people." But even as he said it, Jamin wondered if the war for justice was becoming a war for revenge. And he wondered if there was really any difference between the two. The human fleet arrived at Vorthak Prime after 2 weeks of destroying collective military forces across dozens of star systems. Admiral Taeho stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the world where the decision to destroy Earth had been made 30,000 years ago. "Admiral," said Communications Officer So Young, "we're receiving a surrender message from the planet." Put it on the main screen. The image that appeared was of High Counselor Velkaran, the same alien whose picture they had found in Earth's final records. He looked older and more tired, but it was definitely the same creature who had ordered the destruction of humanity's home world. "Human commanders," Velkaran said in accented but understandable English. "I am High Counselor Velkaran of the Vorthak Collective. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Admiral Taeho stared at the alien who had murdered 8 billion humans. "There will be no negotiation. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy your world just as you destroyed ours." "Please," Velkaran said, and for the first time in his long life, he sounded afraid. "We can offer you anything you want. Territory, resources, technology. Just tell us what you demand." "What I demand," Taeho said slowly, "is justice for the genocide of my people." The transmission ended. Dr. Jihai, the fleet's humanitarian coordinator, came to see Admiral Taeho in his private office. She was a kind woman who had spent her career helping refugees and displaced people. "Admiral," she said, "I need to talk to you about something important." "What is it?" "We've been scanning Vorthak Prime. There are over 20 billion beings on that planet." 20 billion collective aliens, Taeho said with anger in his voice. "No, sir. 20 billion beings of many different species. Most of them are slaves, or descendants of enslaved peoples. If we destroy the planet to get revenge on the collective leadership, we'll be killing billions of innocent people." Taeho was quiet for a long time. "How many are actual collective species?" "Maybe 2 billion. The rest are enslaved beings from dozens of different species that the collective conquered over the last 50,000 years. This changed everything. Tejo had been prepared to destroy Vorthak Prime just as the collective had destroyed Earth. But Earth had been inhabited only by humans. Vorthak Prime was home to many species, most of them victims just like humanity had been. "What do you recommend?" he asked. "We capture the planet instead of destroying it. We put the collective leadership on trial for their crimes. And we free all the enslaved species." Admiral Tejo called a meeting with all his senior officers. The debate was intense. "They destroyed our world," said General Hyun-woo. "They deserve the same fate. But most of the people on that planet are victims, not criminals," argued Dr. Ji-hai. "If we destroy Vorthak Prime, we become just like them," said combat medic Hyo-jin. "We become mass murderers." Colonel Jaemin, who had been thinking about this question for weeks, spoke up. "The real question is, what would the 8 billion people who died on Earth want us to do? Would they want us to save innocent lives, or would they want us to become killers like the aliens who murdered them?" The room became very quiet as everyone thought about this. Finally, Admiral Tejo made his decision. "We capture the planet. We arrest the collective leadership. We free the slaves, and we put the war criminals on trial." "And if they resist?" asked General Hyun-woo. "Then we use whatever force is necessary to complete our mission. But we do not kill innocent people." The invasion of Vorthak Prime began at dawn. Human ships surrounded the planet while ground forces landed in every major city. The fighting was fierce but short. Collective military forces had been trained to fight other aliens with primitive weapons, not humans with advanced technology. Within 6 hours, the capital city was under human control. High Counselor Velkarin was found in his private chambers, surrounded by guards. When human soldiers broke down the door, he did not try to run. "I am Velkaran," he said with dignity. "I was High Counselor when the decision was made to destroy your world. I take full responsibility for that action." "Why?" asked Captain Youngmai, who was leading the arrest team. "Why did you kill 8 billion innocent people?" "Because we believed it was necessary to protect the galaxy," Velkaran said. "We believed humans would become a threat to all peaceful species if you were allowed to spread across the stars." "And now? Do you still believe that?" Velkaran looked around at the human soldiers. They had just conquered his world, but they were treating prisoners with respect and helping wounded aliens. He thought about what his people would have done if they had conquered a human world. "No," he said quietly. "I do not believe that anymore." The trials began 3 months later on a space station built where Earth used to be. Representatives from hundreds of species came to watch as collective leaders were judged for their crimes. Dr. Boram served as an expert witness, explaining collective culture and psychology to the judges. The defendants truly believed they were protecting the galaxy, she testified. "But believing you are right does not excuse mass murder. The collective destroyed dozens of intelligent species and enslaved millions of beings. Their good intentions do not change the evil of their actions." High Counselor Velkaran was the most important defendant. When he took the stand to defend himself, he spoke honestly about his crimes. "I ordered the destruction of Earth because I believed humans were dangerous," he said. "I was wrong. Humans have shown mercy to their enemies and compassion for innocent beings. My people have shown only cruelty and hatred. Do you have anything to say to the families of the humans who died?" asked the chief judge. Velkaran looked up at the viewing gallery where representatives of humanity sat watching the trial. "I am sorry," he said, and his voice was full of real sadness. "I am sorry for every life that was lost. I am sorry for every family that was destroyed. I am sorry for the home you lost. Nothing I can do will bring back the dead, but I am truly sorry." The trials lasted for 6 months. In the end, 12 collective leaders were found guilty of genocide and crimes against humanity. Some were sentenced to life in prison. Others, including Velkaran, were sentenced to death. But the most important result of the trials was not the punishment of the criminals. It was the liberation of all the enslaved species in former collective territory. Representative Subin stood before the memorial station built where Earth had once orbited. Around her were delegates from dozens of species that had been freed from collective rule. Today we remember the 8 billion humans who died here 30,000 years ago, she said. They died because aliens decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to live. Those aliens were wrong about humans, but they were right about one thing. We are dangerous. She paused and looked out at the assembled delegates. We are dangerous to those who would enslave others. We are dangerous to those who would commit genocide. We are dangerous to those who believe they have the right to decide which species live and which ones die. The memorial station became a symbol of humanity's new role in the galaxy. Never again would any species have the power to destroy entire civilizations. Never again would slavery be tolerated. Never again would the strong be allowed to crush the weak without consequence. Admiral Tae-ho, now promoted to fleet commander of the Galactic Protection Force, stood in his office looking out at the stars. On his desk was a picture of Earth as it had looked 30,000 years ago. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. His assistant, Captain Jin Woo, entered with the daily reports. Sir, we have 12 new applications from species requesting protection from aggressive neighbors. Approved, Tae-ho said without hesitation. The Zephyrian government wants to thank us again for their liberation. Tell them we were honored to help. And sir, the Council of Free Species has voted to make the anniversary of Earth's destruction a galaxy-wide day of remembrance. Tae-ho nodded. Good. No one should forget what happened here. As Jinwoo left, Tae-ho turned back to the window. Somewhere out there, on thousands of worlds, beings lived in freedom because humanity had chosen justice over revenge. Children played safely because humans protected them. Families slept peacefully because human ships patrolled the space lanes. The aliens who destroyed Earth had been afraid that humans would become dangerous if they spread across the galaxy. In a way, they had been right. Humanity had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, but they were dangerous only to those who threatened the innocent. Earth was gone, and the 8 billion people who had died there would never come home. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. From their ashes had risen a human civilization dedicated to protecting all life, defending all freedom, and ensuring that no species would ever again face the horror of genocide. The children of Earth had kept their promise. They had returned for justice, and they had brought it to the galaxy. Now they would make sure it lasted forever.